So this is the last lecture on fish taxonomy before we move into systems and physiology, biology of fishes. And so here we are. Lucky number 13 is the lecture, and depicted here is a puffer fish, and this is one of the more advanced fishes out there. So we're going to go over these today. So the first thing I'd like to just say here is these are the most advanced fishes known evolutionarily through the history of fishes. And this is suborder Scombroidii. So this group is united by a fixed, here we go with our pointer, fixed non-protrusible premaxilla, which is an adaptation for feeding on large prey. We talked about how last week the other advanced fishes had these very well-developed oral jaws that were designed for pipette or suctorial feeding, and very sophisticated pharyngeal jaws inside of the skull designed for pulverizing things. Well, these fish here have, going back to these non-protrusible premaxilla. So maybe not as much about suctorial feeding, but very well adapted for feeding on large prey items. Now, whether those are teeth that can tear or slash or shred or bite chunks out of things. There are 5 families here, 136 species, and because of these jaw adaptations, almost all of these fishes are carnivores. They're piscivores, eating other fish, or carnivores outright eating animals. So in particular, we're going to talk about here Scombridae, the mackerels, the Spanish mackerels, and the tunas. And also we're going to talk about Spidorrhenidae on the next slide. Spidorrhenidae are the barracudas. So jaw adaptations here, mostly carnivores. So Spidorrhenidae are the barracudas. Now I'll make a note here that your textbook on page 306 puts the barracudas with Percoidia. I like to stick them here with Scombroidii as a suborder because they sort of fit better here. So this is sort of a slight difference from your textbook. Family Spidorrhenidae, elongated body, very well-developed lateral line, and 2 very widely separated dorsal fins. So here's dorsal fin 1, anterior, close to the head. Dorsal fin 2, posterior, closer to the tail. You can see very widely set dorsal fins. There's a large superior mouth, strong fang-like shearing teeth, capable of shredding or slicing through prey items. There's about 20 species in family Spidorrhenidae, broadcast spawners in aggregations, max length about 6 feet. And they're a very important food and sport fish in some areas. You know, some people will go out and catch these. Some people will eat them. They do have a tendency to become ciguatoxic. And again, we'll talk about ciguatera poisoning later, but this is one of those species that oftentimes is kind of dangerous to eat because you can be poisoned by eating it. Families, worldwide tropical and temperate marine distribution. You know, juveniles can be a few inches long and they're found in estuaries, for instance. But generally speaking, we're talking about marine fish. Adults are both pelagic, so open water like this one, or sometimes associated them with coral reefs, so some kind of structure. So family Spidorrhenidae, the barracudas. These are apex predators, and like I said, they're sometimes ciguatoxic. Ciguatera poisoning occurs oftentimes around tropical reef areas, so warm water. But even off the coast of North Carolina, you can encounter some barracuda that if you eat them, can have ciguatera poisoning. So you have to be careful. Small individuals and small species in family Spidorrhenidae, they school, while the name of the barracuda is Spidorrhena barracuda. The larger fish tend to be solitary. So they might school as smaller fish, but then as they get bigger, they become solitary. Some large barracuda have been known to attack humans. So here's an example here of barracuda bite. And a lot of times humans will report being bitten by a marine fish, and they'll assume that it's a shark, when oftentimes it actually is a barracuda, especially if it's not a severe bite. If it's something like this, it's oftentimes a barracuda. They are attracted to bright, flashy, or shiny things. So like if you're in the water and you're holding something, the barracuda will come up and they'll check that out. So they are attracted to shiny, flashing objects like jewelry. So that's the thing to consider when you're swimming. So family Sphaerenidae, the barracudas. So I will show you this great barracuda feeding video. So showing the barracuda feeding. You can see the fish there are attacking that one, eating it. And here comes the barracuda. So when we talk about how the teeth are designed to tear and slash, look at that. So those are barracuda feeding. And you can see how quickly those advanced jaws are designed to process a food item, like this here, piece of fish. So very sharp teeth, very, very good predators. So the next family here, family Scombridae. We're counting them down now. We're getting down to the more advanced fishes. So family Scombridae, the mackerels and the tunas. Now, we sort of, at the very beginning of the semester, before we shut everything down, we did have a tuna out in the lab, and there is a groove here where the dorsal fin can actually fit down in it. So there are two dorsal fins, and there are actually grooves here on the back side of the fish where those fins can fold entirely down almost into the fish's body, kind of. And that's because if the fish is swimming very fast, it can fold these fins down so that they don't provide any kind of drag resistance. There are then somewhere between 5 and 12 finlets that are located behind the second dorsal. So these little finlets here, and also behind the anal fin. So whenever you see a fish that looks like this, you can tell that fish swims very fast. Finlets, narrow caudal peduncle, deeply forked or lunate tail. And there's also a keel here on the side. There's a lateral keel. So on either side of that fish, there's a keel. And that again is this fish is swimming very fast. 49 species of family Scombridae. Very valuable sport fish. So a lot of people will go out fishing for mackerels and tunas, and also commercial fishery. This is probably, I'm going to say, if you were to name one seafood product that if you go into any grocery store in the United States, beyond a reasonable doubt you will find, my guess is a can of tuna fish. Yellowfin tuna is probably going to be the most widespread available seafood product in the country. Beyond that, it's going to be like things like sardines and that. But tuna, very important commercial food fish. Family occurs worldwide in tropical and warm temperate oceans. So this is family Scombridae, the tunas and the mackerels. There's some interesting facts here about family Scombridae. The largest member is the bluefin tuna, 14 feet in length, 1,100 pounds. So pretty big, good sized fish. Another important fact here is that tunas are what we call endothermic. They actually generate their own body heat, just like a mammal does. And they do this with a specialized vascular system. So this is called rita mirabile. Rita mirabile means the wonderful net. And the rita is a series of vessels that run countercurrent to one another. And what it does is it retains heat in the red muscle tissue of the body core of the fish. And so as opposed to this fish losing body heat to the water around it, it actually retains body heat towards its core. And so it actually it's warm-blooded. This conserved heat is retained in the body, and really it's because these things also are actively swimming. They're swimming all over the place constantly almost. So they generate a lot of heat energy, and then they retain that energy. So a bluefin tuna, for instance, their muscle temperature can be, anywhere from 28 to 33 degrees centigrade. And that's, while they're swimming in waters of between 7 and 30 degrees. So they could be quite warm, not as warm as a mammal. A human being, for instance, your body temperature is going to be about 37 degrees centigrade. And so the tunas are a little bit cooler than that, but it shows that their body temperature is warmer than their surrounding water. The yellowfin tuna will maintain muscle temperatures about 3 degrees centigrade above the ambient water temperature. So they're going to operate at about 3 degrees warm. Tunas are known for long distance migrations between feeding and spawning areas. They're capable of rapid bursts of speed, over 40 miles an hour. And again, when you look at this fish, these little finlets here, narrow caudal peduncle, keel on the caudal peduncle, and then this lunate or deeply forked caudal fin, this all shows this fish swims very fast. Also, last time we were talking about wrasses in the labriform swimming, namely Labridae. The wrasses primarily use their pectoral fins for locomotion. Tunas primarily use the trunk of the body all the way out to the caudal peduncle and the caudal fin for locomotion. So I'm going to say from about here back. And this is called thunniform swimming. Thunniform. And that's when you primarily use your caudal peduncle and the lower trunk of the body and the tail. And so again, this part of the fish is what's driving the swimming, and that's called thunniform swimming. Very fast, again, 40 miles per hour. So here are some videos. We're going to talk about one video on bluefin tuna, and then I'm going to show one video about purse staining tuna in the fisheries. So here is our high definition bluefin tuna first. So from that video, you can see the tunas, how fast and agile they are in the water. And also you can sort of see when they're swimming around, how they can retract that dorsal fin, like really flat against the body. Also, you can see lots of angles as those fish swim by where the keels are on the caudal peduncle. So here is now purse staining, I believe, of the tunas.
It is the ultimate fish. One of the fastest, the most powerful, a fish that navigates the wide Atlantic on an epic journey. Like us, it's warm-blooded. When its muscles fire up, it can actually cook its own flesh. Now, for the first time, we enter its mysterious world, to witness behavior never before captured on film. A super predator known as bluefin.
So more bluefin.
The purse seine method of trapping, transferring, and corralling fish into underwater cages makes it notoriously difficult to verify either the number or size of the fish, so it plays a starring role in the bluefin black market. A vessel called a purse seiner spots a school of bluefin as it comes to the surface to either feed or spawn. The purse seiner will rapidly circle around the school while it drops its net into the water. The result is a cylindrical wall around the school. The net is then gathered from below like a drawstring purse, trapping the fish inside. When the rancher arrives, he attaches his cage to the net through an opening about 10 meters wide. The tuna pass from the net into the cage while scuba divers, one from the ranch and one from the fishing vessel, count the fish and record the transfer. Other species sometimes get trapped too, like stingrays, swordfish, and even sharks. Following the transfer, the rancher and fisherman agree on the number of fish caught. Then the rancher connects the cage to a tugboat and begins the 2-kilometer-per-hour trip to the ranch. That can take up to a month.
So purse staining the tunas. So back to the slide notes. So those are our tunas. Very advanced fish. Next, we'll talk about suborder Xiphoidea. These include family Xiphiidae and Istiophoridae. Now, like the tunas, main characteristics here, if you look at the back end of this, both fish, narrow caudal peduncle, deeply forked lunate caudal fin, very fast swimming fish. These things have the characteristic bills. In the case of the bill fish, the bill is the name of the fish, the bill fish. Here, the swordfish also has a bill. So these are our two groups, Xiphiidae and Istiophoridae, both having bills. So family Istiophoridae, the bill fishes. Now, these things are round in cross section. If you cut this fish right through its middle of his body, they're pretty much round. A key feature here between Istiophoridae and Xiphiidae is that fishes of Istiophoridae have a prickly bill. And really, this is a modified premaxilla. So the same bones in the jaw that allow a largemouth bass to expand its oral cavity and suck things into its mouth, this is actually modified to form this bill. And they use this bill in a very similar fashion to the sawfishes and the saw sharks, and they just sort of slash things in the water column to either damage them or stun them or kill them. Long pelvic fins. Look at how long these pelvic fins are. Very long pelvic fins. Family Istiophoridae. Keels on the caudal peduncle. So just like the tunas, there are these lateral keels on the caudal peduncle back here. Billfishes, the dorsal fin is very long. Sometimes sailfish. You know, I mean, people call these things sailfish every now and then. So look how long and billowy this dorsal fin is. All right, that's another key feature that differs from the other group, Xiphiidae. Billfishes have what we call regional endothermy. So a tuna's body is going to be warm-blooded, but in reality, when it comes to the billfishes, their brains and their eyes have warm-bloodedness. And so these things conserve heat in the head area. This allows the eyes to function a lot better, and also these fish can think more quickly. So the warm-bloodedness is relegated here to the neurocranium. Broadcast spawners, no internal fertilization. It's all external. 12 species in the family. Max size 13, 14 feet long, 2,000 pounds with the marlins. Premier, what we call big game sport fish. So people go out and catch these things, and we showed photos earlier of Linnea at the Big Rock Marlin tournament. Valued by the Japanese as a commercial fishery. You know, some people will eat these things. Family worldwide, oceanic, tropical, subtropical sea. That's where their distribution is. And so here is a video then of marlin feeding, so you can show this this kind of use of the bill.
It's dawn over the southern Baja on the Pacific. An ancient ritual is about to be repeated as thousands of baitfish have been driven up from 300 feet, where predators, marlin and dorado, trap them on the surface. Dorado or mahi-mahi are formidable and voracious predators. The once large bait ball is vastly reduced under their relentless attacks. As they head south to the tip of Baja, the forage fish meet new threats. Frigate birds herald the appearance of another school of sardines trapped on the surface. Fishermen angle for marlin, which hunt this bank in large numbers. There is a wide variety of natural predators awaiting the bait: sea lions, marlin, tuna, and whales. It's only a matter of time before this bait ball is discovered. Paradoxically, the sardines find shelter in the shadow cast by this bull sea lion, who helps to maintain the bait in a confined area. This whale is drawn to the fracas and wants to be a spoiler. Even with its large scoops and immense size, it fails to yield a single fish. Marlin moves so fast that it is hard to see what they have done. All that remains of the sardine's existence is a beautiful pattern of shimmering scales. Is this the last sardine?
So you can see from there the use of that bill, and in case, you know, in one case there they showed a sardine being impaled, and so they sort of, as they swim through those bait balls or the schools of fish, they sort of swing their head side to side and slash that bill around. So it's a feeding mechanism. So family Istiophoridae. Now we look at family Xiphiidae. Two major characteristics that differ here. The first is family Istiophoridae has this prickly bill. Xiphiidae has a flattened, smooth bill. So it's flat and smooth. It's not prickly and rough. And the second is the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin here is usually fixed and rigid with a short base, as opposed to family Istiophoridae, where it's more of a longer billowing sail. Also, family Xiphiidae is a monotypic family. There's only one species of swordfish. There is a keel on the caudal peduncle, again, like these other fishes that swim very quickly. Bill in the swordfishes and the billfishes both have been used as a weapon, for instance, a spear or cutlass or a billy club. They're actually very heavy and dense. And so if you get a bill off of one of these fishes, they're not light, they're very heavy. Xiphias gladius is the swordfish, is the name. Also has cranial endothermy. So the brain is warm-blooded. The brain is warm. So similar to family Istiophoridae. Just a little note here, gladius is Latin for sword. So Xiphias gladius is the swordfish, and it refers to the bill. Max size, 15 feet, 1,300 pounds. So pretty good sized fish. Valuable game fish, sport fish, and also commercial species. A lot of times people will harvest these and eat them. Swordfish is a delicacy. It's very good eating fish. Atlantic population is stressed and considered to be declining as of recent, but there still is a very strong fishery for swordfish. Families worldwide, open oceans and tropical and temperate seas. So very much a worldwide distribution there. When we look at the billfishes, This is some information here from a magazine that I share with you. So billfishes include the swordfish, which is the sole member of family Xiphiidae, again, monotypic. Marlins, sailfish, and the spearfish, family Eciophoridae. These fish are apex predators feeding on smaller fishes, you know, and like we showed in the videos, things like sardines. There's a little bit of discussion here about one of the reasons why these things can swim so quickly is that they have a very sophisticated swim bladder inside of their body, which allows them to regulate their buoyancy. And so that all of their effort then can be dedicated towards swimming vertically or horizontally rather. They don't have to worry about controlling their position in the water column. So here's the global capture of billfishes and showing that since the 1980s, we've seen sort of a steady increase. It sort of maybe leveled off here recently in the last 10 years or so, but we've seen a pretty steady increase in global captures of billfish. Largest is the black marlin, over 1,500 pounds, pretty good sized fish. The swordfish has the longest bill relative to its body length, and about a third of its body length actually can be this bill. Highest or fastest recorded speed for a fish, 68 miles per hour in the Indo-Pacific sailfish. So they are the fastest swimming fishes in the ocean. And as we showed on the video here, the bill of the fish is used as a weapon to help hunt. And so when these things are foraging on bait balls, they'll use the bill to help capture prey. They swipe it back and forth, stab, slash, whatever. So that is the guide to billfishes. Moving on, order Pleuronectiformes. So these things are very characteristic. These are the flatfishes, right? Things like flounder. So we can say this in a fancy way. Adults are asymmetrical with one eye migrating over the top of the head during metamorphosis. They literally have both eyes on one side of the head. They're flatfish. Dorsal and anal fins have long bases. They sort of go a long way around the edge of the fish. Body is strongly compressed. These things are like a pancake. They're very thin. They lack a swim bladder. They don't need a swim bladder because they live on the bottom. They're usually a lurking predator. They sort of camouflage themselves hiding in the sand and wait for something to swim over, and then they snatch it. There are two families of what we call sinestral or left-eyed flounders. These are the bothids and the cynoglossids. And then there are two families that are dextral. These are the right-eyed flounders, the pleuronectids and the solids, the soles. So most of these flatfishes live on sand or mud substrates. And as many as 11 families are recognized, about 570 species. So these are collectively called the flatfishes. And so we're going to talk about these here. Also, the flatfishes include things like soles, turbots, and halibuts as well. So one of the key features here is that during development, when these things hatch out of an egg, they look more or less like a larval fish, right? Like a typical larval fish. This is what it looks like. There's one eye on each side of the head. And then what happens is as they age here, you know, sometime within like the first 2 weeks, 10 days of life, something like that, the eyes will begin to migrate. And so you can sort of see here, the eyes will begin to migrate onto one side of the body or the other, if you're a left-eyed flounder or a right-eyed flounder. And this involves thyroid hormones and also the metamorphosis of the larvae into the juvenile. And so the thyroid hormones sort of drive this process, and it's very extensive. It involves a complete remodeling of the skull. So the bones of the cranium actually shift. And so like you can sort of see, there's an eye on each side of the head here. And as the one eye migrates over here, you can see the bones of the skull physically shift their positions. So it's a very complicated process. And then what happens is this fish then just turns into a flat-bodied animal. And we talk about the dorsal and anal fins having a long margin along the body. Here it is. Dorsal fin starts here, goes all the way around to the caudal peduncle. And likewise, here is the anal fin. And then there's usually some kind of like remnant vestigial pelvic fin right here. And so eyes are on both sides. Both eyes are on one side of the body, whether it's left or right. So very interesting life history. So when we look at left-eyed flounders, here we got family Bothidae or Bothidae. Both eyes on the left side today, you could call it. Family Bothidae. And so you can sort of see here, this is the left side of the fish. Remember, it's the left side of the specimen, not the left, not the side that you're looking at. So the left side of the fish itself. And so both these eyes are on its left side. Caudal fin is separate from the dorsal fin, so there is no connection here. Some cases it does connect around, but here dorsal fin just goes all the way around into the caudal peduncle. The eyes are relatively large, and they're again on the left side of the fish. There is no margin here on the preoperculum. Sexual dimorphism in many species. So when we look at these flounders, oftentimes the females grow much, much larger than the males. So sexually dimorphic growth, females being larger. Most of these are lion weight piscivorous predators. So you can see this flounder here, it's camouflaged, laying on sand. It's very difficult to see these things. They're kind of sneaky. When fish swim by, they eat them. And so they sort of just lay on the bottom and wait for an opportunity. Max size, 5 foot, 5 feet in length, 66 pounds. They're broadcast spawning, fertilization is external, no parental care, about 223 species in the family. And many are valuable sport and commercial fin fish. So for instance, the summer flounder is, I'm going to say, the most important commercial fishery in the state of North Carolina as far as fin fish. So it's a very important fishery. And also the family's worldwide tropical temperate sea distribution. Young can be in the estuaries, you know, for instance, summer flounder, they're in the estuaries, you know, Pamlico Sound, the Admiral Sound, things like that. So they could be in the estuaries, but primarily we're looking at marine conditions. They do like salt. And again, very important commercial fish. Southern flounder is one to think about here in North Carolina. The next family here is family Pleuronectidae, the right-eyed flounders. And so the eyes here are on the right side of the fish. And again, the right side of it, not as you're looking at it. So it's the fish's right side. The caudal fin also is separate from the dorsal fin and the anal fin. Pectoral fins are present here. Sorry, pectoral fins are present here. Also relatively large eyes. Again, these are pretty visual predators. Many are also lion weight piscivorous predators. They can swim up into the water column in pursuit of prey. Basically, they stay on the bottom, camouflage themselves, and wait for something to swim by. 93 species in the family. Again, external fertilization, no parental care. Max length 10 feet, 440 pounds here with the Pacific halibut. So they're relatively big, good-sized fish. Commercially important food fishes. You know, halibut is a staple. You know, a lot of these fishes are important commercial species. Family worldwide marine, mostly temperate to boreal waters, which includes the Arctic Ocean. The halibut are pretty cold water fish. And I'm going to say this, the difference between Bothidae and Pleuronectidae, if the eyes are on the left side of the head, Bothidae. If the eyes are on the right side of the head, Pleuronectidae. And all these other features, I mean, these things are pretty obviously different from any other fish we have to know. So it's actually pretty straightforward. Here's an example. So the summer flounder, the fluke, Paralichthes dentatus, eyes are on the left side of the head. Here's our winter flounder, Certopleuronectus americanus, eyes are on the right side of the fish. Those are your primary features here. They're flat and their eyes are on one side of the head, whether it be left or right. And so just know those families, Bothidae, Pleuronectidae. When we look at some of the important fishes here in North Carolina, again, they're important for the lab portion of the course. We got the summer, the Gulf, and the Southern. North Carolina and South Carolina are the only two states where fishermen can catch 3 species of flounders in the same area. So the summer flounders occur from Nova Scotia south into Florida, and that's the southernmost distribution there of the summer flounder. The Carolinas then mark the top northern range for both the Gulf and the southern flounder. So really all three of these species can be caught off the coast of North Carolina. Gulf flounder, this is how you tell the difference. There's three spots, 1, 2, 3. They form a triangle. That's a Gulf flounder. This is for the lab, again, if you have to know these. Because even in the preserved specimens, these spots still show pretty well. So a triangle of spots is a Gulf flounder. If you can create an X, there's 5 spots that make an X, or I like to look at it like a W. If it can make a W, that's summer flounder. And if you try to connect the dots and you can't make anything, it's a southern flounder. So W, triangle, and just a kind of random patterning. It's a void of a distinct pattern. It's sort of a mixture of spots. That's southern flounder. So those are some of the ideas of how you can sort of tell the difference between some of these species of flatfishes, especially knowing that all these, for instance, have the eyes on the same side of the head, right? But for the lecture portion, Bothidae, left side, Pleuronectidae, right side. So we are wrapping it up now. This is going into the final stretch. These are the most advanced fishes. Order Tetraodontiformes. Now, Tetraodontiformes, tetra means 4. Dont or dent, like going to the dentist, is a tooth. These are the 4-toothed fishes. There are as many as 9 families recognized, about 340 species, and these are what we call the apex of fish evolution. This is the last group that we will talk about. These are the highest, most advanced fishes, and you're going to see some very odd things going on. Many of their head bones are fused together to form bony plates, or they're entirely lacking altogether. There are no bones. The gill openings are restricted. They don't have an operculum. They might have a little hole in the side of their head. That's it. The pelvic fins are absent. We've gotten rid of the pelvic girdle. What? Wait a minute. We were talking about how fins were required for fast swimming and that we were going to be apex predators. Well, we've gotten rid of our pelvic fins. Our scales are modified into spines, and they have shields and plates of heavy armor. Whoa, wait a minute. I thought we were saying that all fish evolution was getting rid of this heavy armor so we could be fast swimming. Kind of like the tunas we just talked about. But no, we're going back to this old design. It must work. And then these fish swim by sculling or flapping their dorsal and anal fins. They don't even use the tail. They don't really swim all that fast at all. They're actually very slow. A type of swimming that we call tetraodontiform swimming. That's what I'm saying. These words are somewhat important because you keep seeing them over and over again. They can produce sounds by grinding oral or pharyngeal teeth or by vibrating the air bladder in some cases. But we see a kind of a major deviation here from our current evolutionary pattern. So what we're going to talk about here is family Ballistidae, the triggerfishes. We're going to talk about Ostrachidae, the boxfishes. And we are going to talk about Tetraodontidae, the 4-toothed puffers, and Diodontidae, the 2-toothed porcupine fishes and burr fishes. And finally, family Mollidae. And then we'll end with family Mollidae. So here is family Ballistidae. Very easy one to remember. I think I said this in lab. These are the leather jackets or the trigger fishes. A gun is a ballistic weapon. Ballistic means to fire a projectile. These things are called trigger fishes because the dorsal fin, the spines of the dorsal fin resemble the trigger of a gun. Ballistidae. Pelvic fins, again, we talked about pelvic fins not being there, but look at, they've got this sharp kind of spike there. They got a spike up here, this dorsal fin, this trigger fin, and they got this little distensible spiky thing here in place of the pelvic fin, which they call a pelvic apparatus. Very heavy plate-like scales. There's a tympanum here. This is the operculum, is only this little small opening right there. This tiny little opening on the side is where it's all that's remaining of the operculum. Called a tympanum. Two dorsal spines. The first forms a locking mechanism. So literally there's a bone inside of the top of this fish here that can lock this spine up. And when I showed you the video of the stargazer trying to eat a triggerfish, you could see that it locked that spine up, and the stargazer couldn't eat it, and so the triggerfish was able to escape. So it's a form of defense. And so then these other two hard spines are all that are part of then the anterior dorsal fin, and then our soft ray dorsal fin is the posterior side. Related to also part of this family Bellistidae are the file fishes. And these things, again, have this pelvic apparatus that's sort of distensible, and it's kind of sharp down here. But instead of having a series of spines that are part of a fin, these things literally have one large spine that's called a file, right? And it's because that these things are covered with, they're kind of prickly. They're kind of rough. And so some of these things are a little bit more velvety. They're kind of like rough. Other ones are outright scratchy. And so these are the file fishes. And so this is where the one spine is literally by itself. But again, it's to prevent some fish from coming in here and trying to eat this thing whole. You've got to deal with this pelvic apparatus, and you've also got to deal with the file spine. So it's hard to swallow these things whole. So those are the file fishes. When we look at it as a group, there's about 135 species in family Bellistidae. They're substrate spawners. Females will maybe make a nest and guard it. So there is a little bit of parental care. In some cases, again, they just release their gametes and fertilization occurs outside of the body. So they're broadcast spawn. Max length, 3 feet. Triggerfishes are very good to eat. And again, you can sort of see this spine here, again, the triggered spine there. And so triggerfishes are very good to eat, popular food fish in restaurants. And so you can sort of see here is a piece of fried triggerfish, a very good tasting fish. Family has worldwide distribution in marine, tropical, and temperate areas. They can associate also with coral reefs or other underwater structures. And so pretty wide distribution. Again, very successful group of fish. Another group that I like one of my other favorite groups here is Ostrachidae, the box fishes. And so here's an actual box fish, I guess, skeleton. And so when we talk about like lots of these bony elements are fused together, look at this. The whole fish is like one bone. Right? So we call this the body being encased in some kind of bony carapace. So we've gone back to this heavily armored state that we originally saw with the first fishes, these placoderms and things like that. The spinous dorsal fin is entirely absent. We don't even have a dorsal fin anymore. They've got some of these like horny, sharp projections across the eyes maybe, but when your body's entirely encased in bone, you don't need to have spines. And in some cases, you know what? Let's just go ahead and secrete a toxin, ostracotoxin. Let's cover our body with a toxin and make it out of bone. So even if someone tries to eat us, they really can't. The toxin comes from special cells in the lips, causes agglutination of red blood cells in other fishes. So again, these things are designed to not be appetizing, and they're bony. So they're armored, they're protected. Broadcast spawners, sometimes just harems, one male and several females. Max length about 20 inches. Now, you can crack these things open and eat them. They're eaten in Puerto Rico. It's a good food fish. I've never eaten one, but apparently you can eat them. But these are the box fishes, Ostrachidae. Family, worldwide tropical, subtropical marine distribution, often associated with coral reefs. Okay. no spiny dorsal fin, bony carapace around the body, and they produce astracotoxin. Key features, ostraciidae. Tetraodontidae, the puffers. Now these things have an inflatable body. There is a diverticulum attached here from the esophagus into the stomach, and they can actually swell themselves up with water. And so they can swim around like this, or they can puff up. The teeth are fused into a beak, a powerful, crushing, cutting beak. No spiny dorsal fins, because when you're covered with spikes or covered with prickly armor, you don't really need to have these handful of spines along your back anymore. We're going back to this armored state. 121 species, both demersal, where the fish spawn eggs that sink to the bottom, or broadcasting, where they spawn eggs and the eggs just float away. In either case, fertilization is external, and there is no parental care. Max length, 3 feet. 3 feet. Family, worldwide tropical distribution, subtropical marine estuaries and freshwater. So with that, I've got some videos to show. I think I skipped one. I think I skipped 2. So let's go back to the flounder. We're going to show this video here about flounder spawning. So watch this. This is how flounder spawn. And so you can see how this flounder is swimming. That's how the flatfish locomote, if you will. And here the pair mating, the male, and the larger one, my guess is will be the female. And then that's external fertilization, pelagic. They just sort of mix gametes like that and release those fertilized embryos. And so here is nest building for the triggerfish. Again, family Balistidae.
The following footage shows a female triggerfish guarding her nest from intruders that are attempting to prey on her eggs. Maternal care of offspring is rare among coral reef fishes with external fertilization, but is known in several species of haremic triggerfish. Both male and female triggerfish establish territories where several females belong to each male's territory. Biparental care has been observed. However, females generally care for the demersal eggs until hatching by blowing water and guarding them from intruders, which commonly occurs in the first night after being laid in the early morning. Parental care is necessary for eggs to survive and hatch.
So that's
Fishes with external fertilization, but is
that is the triggerfish, again, Ballistidae, guarding eggs. And now this is the video I really want to show you. This is when we talk about these things. So when we talk about puffers, look how cute these things look. Right now, I'll tell you this: don't ever put your finger inside of the mouth of a puffer, because when we talk about advanced jaws, yeah, the jaws in these things are not quite the same as a largemouth bass, so we don't have that very rapid, sudden vacuum created where we can inhale something whole. But when we talk about fused bony plates that are designed to crush and cut, this is what I'm talking about. So look at this crayfish. It pinches the puffer, and the puffer just can bite right through the crayfish. And it has no problem just slicing right through the shell of the crustacean. So very powerful jaws and teeth. And so that there is the biting fused tooth plates, family Tetraodontidae. Very strong jaws. For these little guys, it's pretty strong. You know, you're only looking at a fish that's a couple feet long, probably. In many cases, just a few inches long. Very, very powerful biting. And again, tetraodont is 4-toothed. Diodont here is 2-toothed. And so you can see these these tooth-like plates here. You got an upper and a lower. 1, 2. These things also can inflate their bodies like this. Body covered in well-developed sharp spines. And these sharp spines might lay flat against the body when they're just hanging around, swimming like regular, but when they get mad and they inflate, those spines are designed to stick out. Parrot-like jaws of fused teeth. So just like Tetraodontidae, very powerful jaws. These things are covered in sharp spikes, very powerful teeth. They can pretty much eat whatever they want. Juveniles occur in the pelagic ocean, the drift communities. So the fertilized eggs, the larvae sort of get swept along into ocean currents. When they get older, the adults oftentimes then are, their worldwide distribution in tropical and subtropical marine areas, but oftentimes they like to associate with some kind of structure as adults. 19 species in the family. They're broadcast spawners, meaning that they'll release their eggs into the water column. No internal fertilization, no parental care. Max length, again, about 3 feet. Diodontidae, the 2-toothed fishes, the porcupine fishes, also the burr fishes are included in this group. So with that, it's my unfortunate duty to give you the most advanced family of fishes. This thing here, family Mollidae, the mollas. Now, when we went out on this mission to learn about fish and the evolution of fish, I said, you know, let's go ahead and we're starting off with heavily armored, bony things that tumble around in the muck on the bottom of the ocean. And that through time, we've gotten rid of our armor. We've evolved these jaws. We've become predators. We can eat whatever we want. We've designed our jaws to do all sorts of crazy things, from cropping algae to eating very specialized diets with long, narrow beaks and things like this. And then we started seeing today, you know, going back to some of this heavily armored stuff. Okay, you know, every now and then we can see there's a throwback. Evolutionary throwbacks are okay. If it worked in the past, it probably works again. But now, I have no explanation for this. I do not have an explanation. Mollidae, no caudal peduncle. Look at the tail. Look at the tail of this thing. No caudal peduncle. Caudal fin is absent. False caudal rays are formed by dorsal and anal rays. The teeth are fused into this hole. This mouth is like just a hole. It's small. These are the dorsal and anal fins. They're used to swim by sculling, and I'll show a video of this. They're relatively strong swimmers. They're very slow, though. Skeleton is cartilage. We don't even need any bone anymore. All right. Let's get rid of it. Let's just go back to another throwback. Let's throw it on. It is the most advanced fish. It is. This thing right here. Most fecund fish as well. A single female can produce 300 million eggs. And they use this highly sophisticated mouth to feed on jellyfish. 3 species, broadcast spawning, no parental care, all 300 million eggs just go wherever. Max size 7 feet, 2,200 pounds. Family worldwide, tropical, subtropical distribution, open ocean pelagic, just swimming around eating jellyfish with this ridiculous mouth. So the most advanced fish known, family Mollidae. Not at all what you'd expect. We've come a long way, and we ran into this thing. So they get to be pretty big, but there is one there with a diver. And they are kind of cool. They are ridiculous looking. They don't really fit at all with our pattern of fish evolution. They sort of just appeared out of the blue. But here is a video right here. National Geographic.
This disc-shaped fish looks like it belongs more in outer space than underwater. But the mola mola, or sunfish, is no stranger to the oceans. When you're as big as a pickup truck, you go anywhere you please. It spends most of its time diving in the depths for its main prey. Jellyfish. Jellies are more numerous than nutritious, so the sunfish spends most of its time feeding. But it doesn't have food on its mind right now. Today, it's come to the surface to deal with a bigger problem, one of a confidential nature. Parasites. Sunfish can be infested with some 40 different kinds. In the marine world, don't try to remove them yourself. Seek kelp. These beds of floating kelp are home to the half-moon fish, who will gladly take care of the problem. Weird? Maybe, but it's just what the doctor ordered. Even in the wild, though, you'll still have to wait for your appointment. The sunfish float in line until it's their turn. Then they flop on their sides to be tended to. The cleaner fish are thorough, but some parasites are beyond even them. So the sunfish seeks out a specialist. A seagull. The gull surgically hacks into the sunfish's flesh. And snaps up the last remaining holdouts. Finally free and clear, the sunfish can go back to feeding.
There we have it. So it comes back to this, the fish, that's the pinnacle of evolution. So when you're researching fish, you sort of understand when Yoda just sort of said, you know what, I'm done with this. So with that, I have a story. So this one here is related to the lecture. Here it is. You learned it here, AEC 441, a deadly delicacy. Fugu. fugu is one of the most celebrated and also notorious dishes in Japanese cuisine. It is served raw. So the sashimi is the raw, like this, raw sliced fish, usually served on some kind of plate. And so that's the sashimi style. And fugu can be lethally poisonous due to tetraodontoxin. And again, you see this tetraodont, you're going to see it over and over again. So this toxin is deadly, and it must be carefully prepared. The fish must be carefully prepared to remove the parts of the body, in particular, that contain this toxin. And so usually this is the liver, the female gonad, the ovary, and the eyes. The eyes of the fish also have a lot of tetraodontoxin. And if this is not prepared right and you damage that tissue as you're removing it, then it releases that toxin into the flesh. If you eat that, you can die. It's very dangerous. So preparation of fugu is strictly controlled by law in Japan, and only qualified chefs with years of experience, the master chefs, are able to prepare this fish. Tetraodontoxin blocks voltage-gated sodium ion channels in nerve cells, so it's a neurotoxin. And this can paralyze muscles. So the poisoning victim is unable to breathe and then basically just dies from asphyxiation because the muscles that allow your lungs to pull air into them are paralyzed, and so you're conscious while you suffocate because you ate a pufferfish. Fugu poison is about 1,200 times stronger than cyanide, and there is no known antidote. So it's a very powerful toxin. So when we talk about like some of these fishes producing these toxins on the skin to protect them from being eaten, this is very powerful toxin. The poison comes from fugu-eating animals infested with pterodontoxin-laden bacteria, bacteria from genus Pseudo-Ultramonas. And the fish itself is actually immune to this or insensitive to this toxin. Now, they contain it, does not poison them. And so they actually carry this around with them. And so that is the delicacy known as fugu, the puffer, poisonous fish. And that is it for the taxonomy component of this course. And Thursday, we will be talking about the first set of systems. I believe it has to do cardiovascular. So with that, I will stop recording here and I will entertain questions with the time remaining. See here.